A very good morning to you. It is the 27th day of March, the 86th day of 2014, and a busy day here in Kenya.
Well, in just under 9 hours, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be giving his second State of the Nation address before Parliament.
And we have lined up for you a comprehensive coverage of that speech and ours leading, of course, up to it as well.
Indeed. Now, we'll be crossing live, in a short while, we'll be crossing live to Mombasa, where our senior coast reporter, Ferdinand Omondi, and has details of coastal residents expect from the president in the wake of rising cases of terror.
And in the North Rift, our Mercy Kandia has perspective from Kenya's breadbasket. This is Morning Express. A very warm welcome indeed to you. We're glad you're joining us. I'm Sophia Wanuna.
And I'm James Smart. Our coverage starts now.
And of course, as we get into the coverage, we want to bring you up to speed with our question of the day today. The State of the Nation address, a big one. Everyone will be waiting to hear what the president will have to say today. And so we are asking you, what do you expect to hear and what do you want to hear from President Uhuru Kenyatta today as he addresses the nation this afternoon? A huge speech that will be anticipated across the board. What would you want to hear from the president? Share with us your views.
Indeed, you can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Sophia Wanuna, at James Smart, or you can text us also, Sophia.
22155 is our SMS number. We will sample your views as we go along with this live show. And as we mentioned, the president is due to address Parliament this afternoon with security and the high cost of living expected to be top of his agenda.
Well, we can now cross live to Sharon Mani to kick off our coverage with a preview of that much anticipated speech. Sharon, what do we expect the president to focus on?
Well, good morning, Smart. And as you rightly say there, it is a highly anticipated speech as the president gives the second State of the Nation address this afternoon in Parliament. Now, this comes in the middle of high concerns in the country, top of which is the rising insecurity state. And what Kenyans will expect the president to address is more of giving a concrete plan of how the government is expected to curb and contain the insecurity issue. Most people are of the opinion that there is more talk with regard to this insecurity than action. We, just 2 days ago, in respect to the Likoni incident, President Kenyatta gave a speech saying that criminals, the national security agencies will take stern measures to curb criminals. And what he will be expected this afternoon is probably give Kenyans a concrete plan of just how exactly the government will take this insecurity issue into control. Another debate that the president actually started himself is the high public sector wage bill. Now, we know that currently it stands at 53% of the national budget and uses up to 55% of national resources, which is actually beyond acceptable standards. And so in his address as well, he will be expected to just continue this debate to show how exactly the government is planning to put checks and balances into this issue. Another debate that continues to shape up is that of the free laptop to primary schools promise. Now, this was supposed to be issued to every primary school. That was the promise, to free laptops to every primary school students. And economic reality just forced them to scale this down to just standard one pupils. Now, recent developments saw this marred with procurement challenges. And so also in his address, he will be expected to show which way forward with regard to this promise. So a number of issues that he will be expected to put to perspective. There is also the issue of high unemployment in the country, a promise that they made that there will be a creation of 1 million jobs every year, and which was really looked forward to by mostly the youth in the country. And there is not much evidence to this job creation and progress. And so many Kenyans will be expected to hear him just say which way forward and what plans do they have with this regard. Now, earlier on, KTN Sam Ogina put into perspective some of these issues, and let's take a look at his story.
The president steps up once again in Parliament to deliver his evaluation of Parliament's undertaking in propelling his administration's agenda. Uhuru will also be delivering his report card to the nation. The State of the Nation's address coming barely 2 weeks before marking 1-year anniversary since his inauguration as president. The president's speech Thursday will be anchored on 3 main crucial areas to position the nation as a regional socio-economic hub. Uhuru's address comes on the backdrop of a church attack in Likoni, Mombasa County, where gunmen indiscriminately sprayed worshippers, killing 6 and injuring a dozen others. Still in Mombasa, a booby-trapped vehicle was intercepted, with intelligence sources claiming it might have come in from Somalia.
We will deal decisively with any external threat to our citizens.
The recent events exposing fault lines in the country's intelligence gathering system and policing in the country. Insecurity has taken center stage in the country, with muggings, carjackings and break-ins on the rise. Deputy President William Ruto's communications director was kidnapped as residential brazen theft remains unchecked.
Yet threats to internal security still remain. We will deal with those threats with the same single-minded resolve.
Insiders close to the presidency indicate Uhuru will address the nation on the implementation of national values and ethics. And as such, the president has openly spoken against corruption deep-rooted in government, and in particular, pointing at his Harambee House office as a corruption den. Already finance and procurement staff in the office of the president have been shuffled, moved to other ministries in a bid to break corruption cartels at Harambee House.
I will act swiftly to end the scourge of corruption. Corruption makes our country less attractive as an investment destination, and it limits access to much needed services, stifling efficiency and eats away at our public values.
President Uhuru's administration is now grappling with austerity measures. 1 year in office, the president and his deputy have announced they will take a 20% pay cut, while cabinet secretaries will take a 10% pay cut. The president has directed all parastatal chiefs to follow suit and take a 10% pay cut.
All arms of government must set the example and lead the way in bringing this wage bill down.
Uhuru is also expected to submit to the nation Kenya's international obligations and relations with foreign powers. Samugina, KTN.
Indeed, thank you very much, Samugina, for that perspective on some of the issues we expect President Uhuru Kenyatta to be addressing this afternoon. The State of the Nation address, a big one that will be happening in the National Assembly later today. And we are joined in studio by the lovely Catherine Omontho, our colleague. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what else do we expect to hear from the President today?
One of my pet subjects is the healthcare system. We're expecting to hear something about that because the previous government was more focused on improving infrastructure rather than improving the healthcare system. They said that if you can improve the infrastructure, then you can open up ways of improving healthcare. But when the Jubilee government or the Jubilee campaign trail decided to say that, you know what, we're going to address healthcare, they really caught the attention of a lot of people, especially mothers, when they said that they would provide free healthcare.
Right.
But some critics say that by providing free maternal health care and not addressing the issues within the healthcare system, then you're just putting the horse before the cart. So that is one of the issues he needs to address. First of all, when he made the announcement on the 9th, when he was inaugurated, 9th of April, 2013, guys were really excited, but then at the same time, we don't have the right infrastructure in our hospitals. We don't have enough doctors. As it stands, we have only 3,000 doctors in our public healthcare system. In Kenyatta, we have 1 nurse for every pregnant mother who comes into hospital. And that's this is a referral hospital. So you can imagine what happens in the smaller hospitals. We also have mothers who decide not to go to hospital and give birth at home, which brings them or exposes them to other complications because the healthcare or the clinic is too far away. So they decide to just, give birth at home. And then you have issues of fistula, you have issues of stillbirths, just avoidable births or avoidable deaths.
Deaths, yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's an issue that needs to be addressed. And also just the general healthcare system. As you know, he promised to improve healthcare and improve the budget allocation from 6% to 15% as required. globally.
Yeah.
But the healthcare system received 34.7 billion shillings in the last financial year, and that is the lowest it has received in the past 3 financial years.
Wow.
Some argue that since the county governments were given enough money and enough provisions to provide for their healthcare system at the grassroots level, you can't control what these county governments do with the money. So in essence, you actually just have 34.7 billion shillings to deal with healthcare. So, like Baby Osinya brought out, the
complications and the difference that you can have in healthcare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, critics will say it's not right for a child to go into a hospital, technically a referral hospital in the coastal area, and not be attended to.
Yeah.
And there's no neurosurgeon. We only have about 16 neurosurgeons in the entire country. We only have 23 renal surgeons, which is kidney failure is a big issue in the country. We only have 23 renal surgeons in the entire country. And cardiologists is the same. We have less than 20 oncologists to deal with the cancer upsurge in the country. So it brings out, we need training, we need more employment of people. But you see, the problem is some doctors say that the public healthcare system doesn't pay them well enough. So they go to private hospitals and they go abroad. So it's easier for them to really survive.
Yes.
So that is one of the issues that they have to address when it comes to the State of the Nation address.
But is the question of healthcare more than just being addressed from State of the Nation address, but more like a policy, like an entire policy on how to do with healthcare? Because our healthcare is it's not even broken, it's not even there, and not only that, we have this private insurance which take care probably of 1 or 2% of the population, and then you have 95% population with no any sort of license or healthcare. So there shouldn't just be just a different policy, and someone that drives it from the front. And I'd say, well, this is a county or a national government issue.
Yeah, it's more. Yes, you're right. The government should walk the walk and talk the talk. It's we did have the Cabinet Secretary for Health last year did make an announcement that he will change, or he will look into ways of changing the policies, especially health insurance and also other healthcare policies. As you know, I mean, a interesting fact is if I have the same, if we're a match for kidney transplant, I can't give you a kidney. By law, it's only your mother or your sister who can give you. I can't give you a kidney as a person who and get her a perfect match. And that's some of the things that need to be addressed. There are a lot of things in our healthcare policies and healthcare system that needs to be tweaked. And the Cabinet Secretary did promise to change it, but it's been 6 months.
Still waiting on that.
Yeah.
Indeed, and several other issues. Of course, today at Kenya at 50 conversation later on will be focusing on education, and that as well. The beginning of the year, it was a huge promise during the campaign period, and that this breakfast where he hosted media in State House, he did reiterate how important and close to his heart that particular project was. But look at how it's been mad with, tendering, procurement issues, and the kids don't still have the laptops and may not have them anytime soon.
Exactly, it's true. And one of the simple promises the Jubilee government made before they got, or as they got into office, was to even just provide milk. Free milk for primary school. And that has
milk.
The Nyayo milk. I remember those days.
And we must mention that was a very key pillar for some of us to go to school.
I know, it was huge this time.
It is. It's a big issue because if you provide milk to a child who probably will go home and not eat lunch and not eat dinner, that's a big thing. That changes their life completely. But that hasn't been provided, and that was promised. And it's more of, they've talked a lot, and now, they need to work on it.
They need to work the work. And education just not only just this, what critics would say, lying to kids, which is extremely bad thing as it is right now. But this fascination of this laptop project, did make a lot of sense in the beginning, right? Because you would go anywhere, even in this city, Nairobi today, that schools are seriously under-equipped, understaffed, and there's serious issues to do with education, as opposed to just have this fascination, if you like, if we must.
Yeah,
it's true. It was stakeholders say that it was from a good place. It was thought from a good place, but given our education system, given that we don't have classrooms, given that we don't have teachers, and given that
electricity as well.
Exactly, it's right at the bottom of the list. It's too down there to consider. And then again, if you provide laptops to the first class or standard one, does that mean that you will provide new laptops every year for that first class and every other subsequent class after that?
And when the older kids bully the smaller ones to grab
to take the laptop. And then what kind of laptop? And then these are kids who probably don't even know how to use a calculator. So then how do you start using a laptop in your first year of class? I mean, that's what we'll
continue with this conversation. Catherine, we want to take a look at what a section of Kenyans think and what they expect, actually, what they want to hear from President Uhuru Kenyatta later on today, the State of the Nation address. Let's have a listen at some of their thoughts.
Ningependa rais tena aongee kuhusu wage bill vile mjadala unaendelea. Naona ya kwamba hapo pale ameshikilia ni mzuri, aweze kushikiliana pia wale washikadau wengine ili pia wage bill iweze kupunguka, ndio mwananchi wa kawaida pia tuache kuteseka hapa chini mashinani, ili tusiwe tunatoa pesa yote inaenda kwa kodi.
Another thing is unemployment among youth. The president to address the Kenyans concerning youth who are unemployed.
Mimi sina story mob, security ban. Hakuna haja tukae kwa hii nchi yetu wasema refugee. So mimi naona angalia story ya security na pia mambo ya counties. Hatupendi venye, hatufurahi venye mambo ya counties zinaendeshwa.
Ufisadi na ile hali ya nchi kuwa na utajiri upande mwingine umasikini. Ile bridge imekuwa kubwa sana. Maskini ako chini sana. Kama angeweza kabisa kujaribu kuambatanisha utajiri, angalau ipungue, wale wa chini wapandishwe juu.
Some of the issues Kenyans there hope President Uhuru Kenyatta will today in his State of the Nation address talk about and speak to later on this afternoon, and that is why we're focusing our coverage this morning on the show. But let's move on to another important issue we've had mentioned then. The question of insecurity is no doubt going to be top on the president's agenda. At least that is what many Kenyans will be hoping. But one directive issued by a county commissioner, that is the shoot to kill order, has been met with anger in some quarters. A section of the civil society and security analysts say the order will do little to solve the bigger problem. Asha Mulu reports.
As they widened their search for terror suspects across the country, police announced their most controversial strategy yet.
Wale si watu wa kushikwa wamepatikana ndiye huyu ako na hiyo bunduki. Mariza yeye hapo.
And it's no surprise the shoot to kill order has been met with much criticism.
He is giving authority to the police to be the investigators, the judges, and the executioners. That is not the country that Kenyans determined in 2010 when they passed the Constitution of Kenya.
But just how effective will this strategy be, especially at a time when security threats have evolved?
You kill the messenger and you spare the master, who can plan a similar killings in future.
The worst thing for the security apparatus is when the citizenry begins to doubt you. You could be doing a good job, but as long as everybody on the street is saying, I know, then you have a problem. Because whatever you do, then guys don't appreciate it, number one, and they rubbish it, number two.
It is the responsibility of the government to study, not kill. Shoot to kill is not a solution. How many people will you kill? Okay? And the more you kill, people will come, because it's an ideology believing that when I am killed, I will go to paradise.
I think whitewashing everybody by saying they're all in the same boat, everybody perhaps that comes from outside might preach radicalism, may not be the right answer.
It's not the first time police are taking this hard stance on security. The Inspector General of Police gave a similar order last year, right before terrorists attacked the Westgate Mall in Nairobi, killing more than 67 people.
We have to deal with them very firmly. And this is what I'm urging and instructing all the officers in the country to use their firearms effectively the way they have been empowered by law.
In 2005, When the cultural religious sect Mungiki had gotten out of hand, the then Internal Security Minister John Mishuki issued the directive.
Weapon in the hands of a criminal has no other purpose except to kill an innocent person. It is therefore justifiable for the law enforcers to take equal measures against such a person.
A special force within the police service was tasked with dealing with Mungiki. They gunned down dozens of men connected to the sect, and after a while, the group went underground. Police appear to be employing a similar tactic in dealing with today's security threats.
Last Friday tuliswaga 5. Halafu Sunday wawili tumeokoa bunduki. Kuna wawili wamebaki hapa.
Munguki, they don't have an agenda beyond Kenya. These people, they are victims of the historical injustices. But this one, they have an agenda beyond Kenya. They have a global agenda. So it is a political solution rather than what we call a military solution.
Let's engage directly. Take communities, bring them together, especially their leaders, and find out what those issues are that are underscoring it. These sort of things don't happen without somebody nurturing the environment for malcontents to take place, for issues like that are generated by malcontents to take place. Who's nurturing them? Why would they nurture them?
Even though the Mombasa County Commissioner has given officers on the ground the go-ahead to gun down terror suspects, experts warn that police may have to rethink this strategy. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Still on security matters, many Kenyans now say they feel abandoned by the state in the face of rising crime. And as KTN's Najma Ismail reports, some church leaders are once again asking the government to let them carry guns.
Once again, church leaders have called on the government to allow them carry guns in order to protect themselves and their faithful.
Tumeitisha tupewe walinda usalama wa kutulinda, lakini sasa tunaambia hawatoshi. Kwa hivyo tukipata njia ya kujilinda ni vizuri zaidi.
Kwa kuulizia bunduki ilikuwa na maana yake. Maana yake ilikuwa ni kwamba tunahitaji usalama.
But as much as many Kenyans don't feel safe, some are so not keen to see an arms race among ordinary citizens.
Nchi kila mtu ikiwa atabeba silaha itakuwa sasa ni mauano. Itakuwa ni kama Somalia ama nchi zingine ambazo tunaona mbali. Kwa hivyo mimi sioni ikiwa sawa kanisa yoyote kupewa silaha.
A government directive in the last 24 hours saw the deployment of hundreds of police officers to boost security operations in Nairobi and its environs. At least 5 suspects were shot dead and hundreds arrested during the night operations. Citizens expect more to be done to assure them.
Kusema kabisa niko salama ama siko salama mpaka nifike kwangu nyumbani, kwa sababu mengi yanaweza tendeka, na mara nyingi hasa tumeona kwamba usalama unazidi kuzoroteka.
Kitu ningesema ni kwamba makanisa yalindwe, misikiti ilindwe, na all places of worship ipewe ulinzi wa kutosha. Na kama serikali haina askari wa kutosha, they can recall the retirees.
With so many insecurity incidences happening across the country, the question begs, have we been left to protect ourselves? Najma Ismail, KTN.
Well, and later development, members of the National Assembly last evening rejected the Joint Defense National Security Committee report on the Westgate and other terror attacks around the country. The MPs termed the report as unsatisfactory. They demanded that recommendations with specific actions be made.
Scenes from the Westgate siege that was described by the United Nations as the worst terror attack since the 1998 bomb blast. Unidentified persons entered one of Kenya's high-end malls and opened fire, killing 67 people, both citizens and visiting foreigners. 6 months later, the mystery behind the attack still uncovered and many questions unanswered. And now, even a report by 2 parliamentary committees that was expected to open Kenyans' eyes as to what happened on the fateful day has been dismissed.
The first one was that there was general information of the impending terror attack at the malls and the strategic places in Nairobi, which means someone did his job. gave intelligence report to someone else, which someone else then did not act on those intelligence reports. Mr. Speaker, my understanding then is that a recommendation would have been targeting that person who did not act on the intelligence report, because then intelligence report was availed, someone is doing his job, but yet someone else is not sitting on the job. Mr. Speaker, that particular recommendation is not in this particular report.
Yesterday, members of the National Assembly rejected the Joint Defense National Security Committee report released on Westgate and other terror attacks around the country. They termed it as unsatisfactory as a number of questions were left unanswered. The Department of Immigration came under fire as MPs argued that it was full of corruption, with a number of illegal immigrants making their way into Kenya.
One of the recommendations is that we must close all the refugee camps. Every decision has a risk. There's no decision which is 100% perfect. If at all these are the people who are coming to terrorize this country, Mr. Speaker, sir, we do support that these refugee camps must be closed. We must do a cost-benefit analysis. Kenya has been humanitarian enough.
If you look at money laundering, if you look at IED, improvised explosive device, if you look about proliferation of arms, if you look at about refugee problems, about contraband goods, all of them are coming from Somalia.
Making the country an easy prey for terrorists, the MPs demanded investigations into the department alongside the National Intelligence Service. The MPs further say they want recommendations with specific actions made. The report had been prepared by the Committee on Administration and National Security and that of Defense and Foreign Relations. Ian Wafula, KTN Morning Express.
Thank you, Ian, for that report. We now want to cross over live to Eldoret. Mercy Kandia is live for us from there. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, Wanuna.
Good to see you. The State of the Nation address expected later on today. And as far as Eldoret is concerned, the stories you've been covering from that region, what do you think the people there, the residents, are expecting and hoping the president will address today?
Yes, thank you, Wanuna. And as much as the North Rift is concerned, even as the whole nation waits the presidential address in the afternoon and security being top of the issue, Wanuna, as you clearly know, one of the major things that even the region awaits to be addressed, especially the North Rift, is the insecurity that has been witnessed in Turkana County. Constant raids have been witnessed at the border between neighboring communities, the Pokot and the Turkana. This has been happening for a very long time. In fact, just last week we aired very many stories concerning this particular issue. Yes, the region is expecting the president of the country to address security matters and also to include the issue of Turkana, its safety, among other issues. Let me just mention a few positives also. If we were to, ask the residents of the North Rift, especially the two counties, Uasin Gishu County and Trans Nzoia County, to air out their grievances, top of the list would be the issue of fertilizers, because, Wanuna, as you clearly know, the two counties here, Trans Nzoia County and Uasin Gishu counties, are the farming regions within the country that feed the country. So yes, a positive thing that has been done by the government is the early distribution of fertilizer and the cutting of the cost of the fertilizer by 20%. This means that production in the region will improve by 20%. That is, considering if the weather goes well. Wanuna.
Mercy, and the difference with this time around, even as the president gives this speech, is that after the elections we saw the devolved system of government set in. So as much as the president will be addressing those issues, what in the past year have the authorities, have the leadership in the counties been doing to address especially the issue of insecurity?
Yes, Wanuna. The issue of insecurity, compared to what has been aired of late, Eldoret is has not experienced, terror attacks and much of you, but not to say that security in Eldoret has not been an issue. There has been a few issues of carjacking, issues also when there was the ban of use of motorcycles at night. There has been reported incidents within Eldoret of people, being attacked in the evening by people who are using the motorcycle, Wanuna. And also, one of the other issues also concerning security is that there has been a change in levels of security. The leadership in the security the OCPD, the OCS, there has been a shift. In fact, just last month there has been that change. And also, speaking of devolved systems, just today the county governments will have not yet paid the nurses, and this has been a very great debate here in the region. Nurses in Uasin Gishu County have not been paid for the past 3 months. So that's an issue for them, and they're saying that they want the national government to declare who is handling their salaries, if it's the national government, the central government who will be handling their salaries, or the county government. So yes, Wanuna, even as they talk about security issues and devolution of matters, devolution is yet to be fully understood by the civil servants here in the region. Wanuna.
Indeed, Mercy, you've also covered a couple of stories from Turkana, and in the recent past, discovery of huge reservoirs of water, oil as well. And this is a region we're still seeing grappling with issues like drought and all, and for a long time analysts have said it's a part that always comes across of the country that it doesn't feel, the residents there do not feel included. What are your thoughts on how first the governments there, the governors, the senators and others in the county have handled the issues at that level?
Yes, as you rightly put it, Vanuna, this issue of drought in Turkana County, it's even sickening to the residents there that year in, year out, they keep on asking for aid. The Kenya Red Cross and other humanitarian agencies keep saying that the droughts in Turkana and Baringo counties are at, an alarming rate. And this is an issue for the Turkana residents. And Vanuna, Turkana residents are in dire need of improved infrastructure. If you use the road from Kitale that leads you to Turkana County, it's in a pathetic state. In fact, we were attacked as the KTN crew in early 2012 by highway bandits because the roads there are very poor. In fact, we were traveling at around 40 kilometers per hour because the terrain there is just pathetic. So there's very poor infrastructure in Turkana County, despite the fact that also, the temperatures there are, out of this world. There's highs of even up to 40 degrees Celsius. The roads that are only in good conditions are the roads that lead to the oil wells, the roads that lead you to Ngamia 1, Block 10BB in Lokichar. Those are the ones that have been at least leveled by the oil companies. But the main highway that will lead you to Kakuma refugee camp are still in a poor state. Although from now Kakuma to Lokitang, that's at the border at the border of Kenya and South Sudan, the roads there are a bit better. But Pokot County, Turkana County, infrastructure very poor. And as you're putting it, drought. It's bad that the fact that counties, we have been devolved, but one of the priorities of Turkana County, again, even as we do 1 year check in Turkana County, that their people are still suffering from drought. And the irony of it is that just yesterday we had a story about Turkana flooding. So right now, as we speak, Turkana is flooding. So okay. It's quite clear that the county government in Turkana need to put clear measures to, if it's indeed collecting the excess water that is now being witnessed in the region, that should be used again to feed its people. Because as you move towards Pokot County, where Pokot and Turkana share River Takwel near the power plant, there's very good irrigation going on there, part being supported by the Ministry of Agriculture and also World Bank. So yes, Wanuna, I believe there's hope for the people of Turkana, just a government that needs to put its priorities in check.
Indeed, Mercy Kandia, thank you very much for that breakdown of some of the issues, not only in Eldoret, but also around that region that you've been covering for us. We'll definitely link up with you later on. We appreciate, thank you for that update. And just to bring back Kathy into the conversation, some of the issues that she's been able to highlight and mention there, doctors at the county level talking about unpaid salaries. And you remember earlier on when they went on strike, it was a conversation about they don't feel that the counties have the capacity to have those functions devolved to them. They felt that medicine, or rather health, should continue to remain at the national level.
It should be. That's what most of them say, because how then do you control Nyeri County, for example, paying its doctors twice as much as the doctors in Turkana? And then how do you expect the doctors in Turkana to stay in Turkana and not go to Nyeri? There needs to be some sort of, and then how do you control transfers? The county government probably does not have the power to control the transfer of a doctor from one county to another. It's only the central government that can do that. And there's clear-cut measures or there are clear-cut ways of doing things with the central government, and it wouldn't be the same with county governments, because county governments are in a sense semi-autonomous, so they can really do what they want with their money. They can do what they want with their allocations to medicine. They might decide to build a hospital instead of paying the doctors. So the doctors were complaining and saying, doctors and nurses, they were saying that let it be a concrete way or a solid way of paying us and having our other human resource issues addressed by the central government rather than the county government, because then you have this.
Yes.
Because even as you're talking about health, I'm thinking, look at what we saw in Machakos the other day, 70 ambulances, being put out there. And some of the criticism that was coming through, especially on social media, was that I hope they have enough facilities, they actually have those, the dispensaries, the clinics, other than just the ambulances, because where will they be taking people to?
Exactly, that's the truth. I mean, it's a sad truth. And the ambulances will just probably stay in the governance, compound, because you have Machakos General Hospital, and then what else do you have? So priorities is a big issue.
I think the difficulty is what this county and what governors have is they have pressure to show that we are working and we have, we are doing all these great things and good things, so every county would show up with ambulances, and show up with all these cars and whatnot, because there's pressure. I mean, it's 1 year on, we've given you 15-20% of the natural resources. You need to show what you're doing with it. And in the course of that, critical things like healthcare, which I think in the constitution we're supposed to have 3 years for those level 5 hospitals to be developed into county hospitals or something. No one has taken that up because it's too difficult of a job, and then you can't call the media to say, we are having a ground laying foundation. We are talking, with this, we are, talking about national government to help us, constitute some board or whatnot. It's not fancy and it's not good for TV.
It is not, And to see also the First Lady now jump in there and, begin this campaign Beyond Zero. A lot of money was raised. We saw very many people chip in. It also just shows, other than the government, as much as attention, eyes are trained on the president and the government and what he'll do and the policy has been put in place, we're seeing the First Lady as well saying, you know what, let me do something as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think she realizes the issue that lies in maternal health care, because it's a serious issue. I mean, if you have a woman dying from bleeding in her home, and she could be saved and her baby could be saved. This is the 21st century, and we boast to be one of the most developed countries in the region. So we really shouldn't be having such statistics. And for me, I think if the ambulances in Machakos were actually mobile clinics, that would probably make more sense.
True. Absolutely.
Exactly. 70 of them. Yes. Amazing.
Spread out to, because Machakos is very vast. Spread out to now the regions that these women can't access healthcare. That would make sense. But having
and that, I mean, you know best probably, and I don't think most of medical issues are emergencies. Mostly would be malnutrition. There would be mother giving birth, HIV and AIDS, malaria. They're not this kind of ambulance kind of scenario.
Where oh my God.
I don't know. I mean, probably I'm wrong, but
no, it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm probably thinking of the accidents along Mombasa Road. That would, but it's never really an emergency case. The cases that probably need to be addressed are what you're saying: malnutrition. We also have, pregnant women. We have things like fistula. It's mainly.
It's a walk-in situation. For you to get medicine, getting drugs.
Exactly.
See a physician, go for test, things like that. I would assume.
And it always, for me, looking at this whole situation, it's just, I think, a matter of thinking through everything, because with many of the promises and things said to be done, you always get the feeling that it wasn't fully thought through. So you're gonna give this. how is it going to work? How are you ensuring this happens, and sustainably so that at the end of the day, you know, you have this free maternity care? Do you have the places? Do you have the manpower? You know, do you have the medicine and all these other things catered for, so that it's a wholesome solution? It's not, you know, knee-jerk when this happens, or you want to do this. But I guess it's going to have to be a wait and see, and we keep putting the word out there that,
I
there's
like
several
that wait
issues.
and see attitude, but I think I was talking to someone over the weekend, and they're like, it's been a year. We're tired of waiting and seeing. It's more of, you know, show me what you have, because you've been allocated money. The government has money, clearly. I mean, if they can, you know, if the MPs can afford, you know, allowances for their cars, it clearly has money. So
our money.
Our money,
Our money.
taxpayers' money.
Yes.
So do something with it. Let me see. And it's also the, if you can remember, the universal healthcare system that brought a lot of controversy in 2011 and 12, where we're told to pay more NHIF allocations so that everyone can receive proper healthcare. But then you have that problem of how sure are you that all that money is going to be used to provide healthcare for average Kenyans rather than go into someone's pocket. So there needs to be a lot of checks and balances.
And as I have alluded to, corruption has indeed been a big issue, such that as much as there's all this money out there, all these great projects, at the end, when you see the report from the control of budget talking about, you know, 500 billion that could be missing, unaccounted for, it's a major concern. And Kenyans today, and remember, even as we're doing analysis on the show, many people are saying it has come to a point where we have had the president speak very tough talk on corruption, on insecurity, that things will be done, but it needs to move from talk. The country needs to see things working, being done, actionables, not just words.
Actionables. Speaking about action, not to distract this conversation.
Yes.
And the contributions to the Likoni victims, as at 610, stood at 860,000. Just a little shy, 200,000 shy, I think, or something, to a million.
2 million, yes. And that has been the contribution to the treatment of some of the other victims that were affected at the Likoni attack on Sunday, and also the burial costs.
Funeral arrangements and all that.
So for all those who've been contributing, asanteni sana. Want to cross over to Mombasa very quickly. Our Ferdinand Omondi is there for us. Ferdy, good morning.
Good morning, Sophia. Good morning, Smart. Good morning, Catherine.
Good to see you, Ferdy. So recently the big event there was the county assembly members meeting. The president was there to address them as well. But the hugest concern is the insecurity that has captured the attention of the country, and the shoot to kill order now coming through as well. What's the latest from Mombasa?
Sophia, Mombasa hasn't been on the right headlines of security in the recent past. It is very unfortunate, because Mombasa does depend on security being very, very up well for it to be successful, because most of the businesses here, much of it actually depends on security. For example, the industry of tourism that requires the correct kind of headlines to come on. Now, what has happened of late is that Mombasa hasn't really been lucky. There have been a lot of attacks, especially what we consider to be, terrorist attacks or other savage attacks, some of which police have even now refused to classify as terrorist. I remember last Sunday, the gunmen who casually strolled into a church, opened fire, sprayed it with bullets, killed at least 6, injured over 20. And of course, the latest headlines that painted a picture of just exactly how grim the situation is, being Baby Saturino Senior, whose plight KTN highlighted, is now getting help at the Nairobi hospital. So there's an underlying fear that Mombasa may be going to the dogs. We have people who can casually walk into a church, shoot people, walk away, if eyewitnesses are to be believed, and then arrest cannot be made. A very big, massive operation was conducted. Police arrested close to 100, and then what did they charge them with? Idling. So is this a kind of forces that the locals will trust to keep them safe? I think the answer will be on the negative. And in as much as there's been a lot of tough talk led by the county Commissioner Nelson Maro, who is now also under the spotlight for giving a shoot-to-kill order. What people really want to see are arrests being made for the people perpetrating this, and it doesn't help matters also when the police say they're treating this as a criminal offense. I don't know who will just be an ordinary criminal who walks into a church and shoots people. And this is not the first time that clerics have been attacked. We had last year 2 people being beheaded. On Christmas Eve, there's another church which was also attacked. And this is not it all. The issue of radicalization has been there, and this is something that has been discussed, and of course is one of the things that led Kenya really to make that incursion into Somalia after a tourist was kidnapped and later killed. And there's a lot of believers, a lot of Mombasa youth who are being influenced to join the terrorist movement Al-Shabaab. Hundreds of them are believed to have gone to Somalia and come back, so they might be here with us. The latest attack, we actually suspect that some of them are actually the locals, some of whom may have been radicalized. The police will say this is different. And so the trail goes back as far back as 2 years ago, even from the time when the shooting of Abu Drogo happened. So there's this case of the police trying to fight crime. There is also the concerns from the Muslim community that their sheikhs are being targeted. The police is saying that some of them are actually perpetrators of terrorism. It's a whole mess, and the thing is you're not getting proper arrests or prosecutions for people believed to be the perpetrators of this. So Mombasa people will not tell you that they are safe, and they really expect the president to be more firm and see the state actually performing to what is expected of them, apart from the very heavy rhetoric which is not marked with words. Sophia?
Indeed, Ferdy, yes, at the beginning them talking about the incident at Likoni as a criminal act and not wanting to term it initially as a terrorist act. Is it to ensure there is no perception of insecurity, of instability in the country, and as far as tourism is concerned, which is major for the country, and Mombasa being a hub for that? Is that what you would think they're trying to ensure does not change?
Well, this is really, from the perspective of the people, this is a reflection that the security apparatus in Kenya is not really up to speed. And it doesn't really help matters that the National Intelligence Service has given strong hints that the police department compatriots are not really taking the intelligence information and acting on them. I was here last year when NIS Director Michael Gishangi was meeting members of parliament at the Leisure Lodge in Mombasa, and he stopped short of blaming the police for not taking the intelligence information seriously. That this has come up during Westgate, this has come up during some of the attacks in Mombasa, that police might have known, but then somewhere along the way something does happen. So it may be a huge reflection that there should be a disconnect. There is a disconnect somewhere, but why is it, and why is it not happening? And also in a country where there isn't really persons who come up to take responsibility for actions. These things happen, blame games go back and forth. Police will always give you that very familiar, we are investigating, we are making further inroads, and then people will be arrested for and charged for things like loitering. The small suspects, small, and this just by, in a manner of speaking, are taken to court, not tangible prosecutions being made. So, I mean, we need to see people like the funders of these acts being taken to court, the biggest perpetrators, because sometimes to stop a tree from growing, you have to uproot it, cutting off the branches will simply come out, and this is perhaps what you're saying. The tough talk isn't really matched by action, so people are very worried. What has happened after Westgate? Who has been held accountable? What happened in Likoni? Who has been held accountable? What happened? You know, we go as far back as you want, and all we see is a trail of unresolved commitments from government. So unless this is seen, people will feel very, very concerned.
All right, Fadi, and you remember recently we also saw quite a number of police cars unveiled in Mombasa, and of course one of the issues with security, analysts have argued that its capacity, they do not have the capacity to fight crime. So have this increase in number of security vehicles in Mombasa changed anything? Have they helped in this war against insecurity, crime, and also terrorism?
Well, I will tell you from the area where I stay that I've been seeing a bit of more patrols in the Bamburi area in the mornings. In the evenings, you will see some of these police cars going back and forth. But when a crime really happens, we expect there to be fast response. And when it does happen, like in Likoni, and there is no fast response, then you have to question whether these cars are being used properly. Let me give you an example. In Likoni itself, it is just 1.2 kilometers away from the Likoni police station. An AK-47 sound, or when that happens, really, you'd expect that within 10 to 15 minutes, policemen are there. And that's not all. There are policemen guarding the JCC Church, which is just a few hundred meters away from the Joy of Christ Church. How fast did it get them to respond to gunshots? Some eyewitnesses are claiming that they might have had gunshots and they responded by shooting there. That is not how you respond to crime. And I also have to speak about the kind of borders that we have here. In the evenings, in the area entering between the Mtwapa Bridge, going into Mtwapa town, there's a police roadblock. And what I've witnessed sometimes is disappointing, and this is something I can say, walking from Mtwapa, especially Friday, Saturday, you will find the borders there, but are they really checking those cars? I mean, I've been stopped a few times, and I've sometimes sitting in the back, and you know, they are not interested a lot of the time in searching the car, looking at the people there. If you flash a little bit of money, that has happened when I was watching before somebody realized that this is actually a journalist in this car. So, these are the things that you need to look at. When you provide them the facilities, are the officers in those vehicles, officers mandated to this work, doing their job? The tough talk from the bosses has to be matched with action for the people there. Before you ask for resources, Sophia, I believe you have to show that you're working with the resources you have. Over 50 cars, are we feeling the presence of the police? Some areas yes, some areas no.
Right, Ferdy, we'll definitely be talking to you later on as we continue with this show. Thank you for that analysis, that update on what's happening in Mombasa. Ahead of the State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta expected later today, and of course with the Vox Pops and some of the Vox Pops we've been playing, you will be hearing what the residents across the country want to hear and want to see the President address today.
Absolutely. State of the Nation address.
State of the Nation, what did I say?
Well, that will be our state of play here shortly.
It was more something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was close to it. But just before we release it, and finally to just bring all this through, the second State of the Nation address, and let's look back at the first. We covered it, as the first one, there were great things that were spoken. Do you think this is going to be taken a bit more seriously? Who's supposed to take it seriously? Is he talking to us or talking to his cabinet or to MPs? Who exactly is he talking to?
I think to us. I think it's more of an assurance that all is well, given that the challenges that his government has faced over the past 1 year. I mean, his government has probably faced too much for a first-time government. I mean, we had insecurity in Garissa, then we had Westgate, then we had strikes. He has faced a lot in 1 year, so I think it's more of a reassurance for citizens to know that, you know what, I'm still in control. And just probably as a response to what Ferdy was saying, it's really saddening that every 1,150 citizens is allocated one policeman. So that is going to have to be an issue that he needs to talk about. He's going to have to talk about welfare of policemen, because maybe it's because we don't have enough policemen to respond to such issues, and maybe they need to be increased. But in order for them to be increased, you have to make it an attractive occupation.
Absolutely.
They need to be motivated.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to say, okay, fine, you won't stay in this one room. You probably need to stay in a better accommodation, then you have a better pay and such things. So that is an issue that needs to be addressed. So yes, it is for us to listen and for us to choose to believe.
Choose to believe, and for the government to perhaps deliver on those things they say they will do.